everybody, welcome back to Challenge Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
We finally have some football to talk about. That is not preseason. Things are actually up and rolling, so we are excited to get started with today's episode. But first, we will start off with Cubs Corner. Avery, give us the Cubs update.
Go Cubs, go. We are 71-62 in a good second place in our conference right now in the NL Central. Yeah, man, the Cubs are looking real good still. We're closing the year. I think we got a really good shot at that. Like right now, we're like that second wild card team. So like we've moved up. We're not that third wild card team, and dude, we're only 3 games away from the Brewers from winning our division. So like I think there's a shot that the Cubbies just go and like we pull it off. Like we don't got many games left. We're at the end of the month. It's September 1st, so we only got about 30 days left of baseball, regular season baseball. Isn't that crazy? Like we were talking about that a lot in the beginning of the summer. Like 162 games, 162 games. Well, we're down to the final stretch.
Do we still have to play the Brewers again, too? Don't we have a series with them coming up still? Or do we just finish it?
We just finished it and we didn't look great. I mean, well, we 2 out of 3. We won 2 out of 3, so we closed the gap a little bit. We pulled within a game. Our upcoming series, though, our schedule.
I was gonna say, 'cause if we played the Brewers, and there'd be our 3 games right there. We go 3-0 against the Brewers, and boom, we just tied it up. But if we just finished, I'm glad to hear they were 2-3 for them. But hopefully the Brewers play some tough competition, and we'll play some winnable competition.
For sure, man. Yeah, so we actually, funny thing that you mentioned, we have the Brewers our last series of the regular season. We have the Brewers one more time.
So
We
we
have a
do play them again.
We do. We have a 3 game stretch, September 28th, 29th, and 30th. So wouldn't that be something? We just closed the gap right there. But we play the Reds upcoming, then the Giants, then the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, and the Pirates, and then the Rockies and the Braves, and then it's the Brewers. So about 5 more series, not too many. Uh,
Well, I watched the Rockies play one game, and I gotta say we got 6 wins right there already. So
well, I sure hope so. But yeah, no, the Cubs, man, I'm pretty proud, and I think, I mean, as of now, I really do think we're playing October baseball. Even as a wild card, I think we're going to play some October baseball, and that's all you can ask for being a Cubs fan.
awesome. Well, we'll move on into our main sport of admiration, football. College football officially came back. We had Notre Dame versus Navy as that very first game happening over in Ireland. Notre Dame ended up killing it 42-3. Kind of like we said, triple option is great until you get a whole summer or a whole fall camp to prepare for triple option. Apparently it works. But aside from Notre Dame's defense being absolutely killer, the offense was also just on point. Sam Hartman, their quarterback from, where did he transfer from again?
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest. Their transfer from Wake Forest had a great game. He was 19 for 23, 251 yards, 4 touchdowns. Just absolutely amazing for Notre Dame.
No, yeah, Sam Hartman, he pretty much put a stamp on, hey, put me in this Heisman running race. I'm at a Power 5 school. Like, I'm leading Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame's been a prominent school, and that's like one thing they've struggled with in the past is their offense getting going and having a capable quarterback. Well, here we are. We got a capable quarterback. Let's see what you can do. I thought, like, Marcus Freeman, like, him being like a second year coach is like really like he's really taken off over there.
Yeah, I one of the coaches is a big Notre Dame fan, so he's all about it. But I actually watched this game, not in entirety, but I watched most of this game, unlike some of the other games. But I thought it was a good game. I enjoyed watching it. I actually turned off the rest of the Bears Bills game to switch over to Notre Dame Navy. So there's
Fair.
there's that college over NFL hopping in a little bit. Granted, it's only preseason, so who cares about Bears Bills? But another game we had a little more meaningful to us, we've got Nebraska versus Minnesota. Minnesota did win it kind of last minute, 13-10, or maybe not last minute per se, but they sealed the game last minute. Avery, you want to talk about that a little bit? You watched more of this than I did.
Yeah. It's just Nebraska being Nebraska. I think right now they are at like 2-14 in the last 3 years of one score games. So gotta love that. They do not know how to close out a game whatsoever. Um, Even and it's funny, man. Like it really is because like they got rid of Scott Frost. Like, wasn't Scott Frost supposed to be the problem? Wasn't he the guy? And then like same troubles at the end of the game with Matt Rule. They don't know how to close the game out. And the
Now,
offense
to be fair, this is Matt Rule's first year
game,
coaching, first game with this team. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you're not a head coach isn't changing shit, especially something like that, like something that's has to come from the players kind of deal. Like that takes some recruiting to change. I think you got to give Matt Rule at least 2 years
I
before
get it.
anything actually happens with him in the head chair recruiting the right kind of guys that he wants on the team.
I get it, but being an Iowa fan, I can laugh at Nebraska's misery. I that's the way I feel. But no, it was just funny, man. Like Jeff Sims, they got that transfer quarterback from Georgia Tech, and he looked okay. Like honestly, like he looked athletic, he looked sharp. The one thing is, he was so inconsistent. He was so inaccurate. That was terrible. Like I felt bad for Nebraska seeing how inaccurate he was because he threw 3 picks, man. 3 picks,
I,
and one of them being the ground breaking pick at the end of the game, the Tyler Nubin, which Tyler Nubin is a stud for Minnesota, by the way.
He had 2 of their picks total this game. I watched the first 2 picks that happened, and I saw Tyler Nubin. I saw his first one that he had, and yeah, I gotta say the quarterback for Nebraska, whatever his name is,
Just
inaccuracy. Inaccuracy is a
he had
modest way of putting it.
he had 91 yards rushing. But in college football and in the NFL, you gotta be able to do both. Like that's the thing, and that's the thing that we've talked about even with our own quarterback, Justin Fields. You gotta be able to do both. But yeah, his QBR was 58.3. He struggled. He struggled his first game as Cornhusker. But Minnesota, man, starting a young sophomore, Athen Kalakemanis, still can't pronounce it, butchering that quarterback's name. He didn't look bad. Like I thought he was okay. Like especially for being like a true sophomore, like coming in, especially leading them down at the end of the game and like the end of the game and leading them to like that beautiful touchdown pass to Daniel Jackson. I really thought that was like, oh, this guy, he's got some moxie. He might not be the most like accurate, might not be the greatest quarterback right now, but he's a true sophomore, and he just let him down for a game-winning drive.
Now, therein leads to a question of mine. This was a true Big Ten game here, 10-13, low scoring, very close. Is Minnesota going to be any good? Because the thing that I can't tell is that you have Nebraska against Minnesota. Like they're either both. Maybe Matt Rule is doing some things in Nebraska. Maybe they have elevated. Maybe they are on the up and up. But Minnesota could be having an up year too, because we know Minnesota can be real up and down, back and forth. Like who knows how they're ever going to come out. So my big question, seeing this with Nebraska, is like, okay, how are these two teams going to rank up when they start facing other Big Ten opponents now?
I agree, and that's hard because like it's week one. It's week one. Like we haven't even seen the Hawks play.
Yeah.
Like that's the sad part. Like, and we're Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. Like these type of teams, it's like okay, like how are we gonna stack up? To me, like one thing I did notice is Nebraska's defense looked a lot better than it did last year. I felt like Nebraska's defense struggled mightily last year in a lot of games, and they looked a lot better. And Minnesota, I felt like their offense struggled mightily last year. Well, Daniel Jackson looks like he could be a bright spot of this Minnesota's offense. And this young sophomore quarterback, he looks like he could be a bright spot. I think it's just like first game of the year jitters. I really don't think you can see like how each team's stacking up right now.
No, I mean, you definitely can't see it now because you're going to have to see it when they actually face other competition. It makes me curious of like, okay, either Minnesota only scoring 13 on Nebraska is, like going to have a down year, or like you said, wow, Nebraska's defense has just really improved. Like Minnesota could still be decent and Nebraska's defense is actually doing something about it. So that'll be interesting to see the rest of the season. But either way, I don't think I'm too worried about it. From an Iowa standpoint, I feel like both these teams, when they face up with Iowa,
Will be
Iowa should have the upper hand, especially this year in the situation that we're in.
for sure. I agree 100%. I want to talk about that catch real quick before we move on. Daniel Jackson, did you see that one leg catch at the end of the game?
No.
Okay. Well, he drug his foot he high stepped his left foot up and then dragged his foot. It was beautiful. It was just like the most beautiful catch. I mean, it was such a typical college catch, but just seeing the toe drag. And I don't know, Daniel Jackson, he looked really good. He helped bail out a young quarterback, and I think he's gonna be a name to watch out for in the NFL.
In the back of the end zone.
In the back of the end zone.
I just pulled it up and watching it right now.
Hell of a catch. And to tie up the game, it was pretty impeccable.
Yeah, that's a decently placed ball too. You put it somewhere where only your receiver is going to grab it. You're not in the threat of throwing it to anybody else. Right down the sideline, man, that toe drag. He was almost in the air with that toe and brought it down. His other leg is already out of bounds. He just needs to hit the back leg before he hits the front leg. That's a crazy catch, though. That's a good highlight reel for Minnesota right there. I think they might actually have a decent year.
I think their offense is okay. I actually enjoyed watching Minnesota's offense.
Yeah, I think both these teams might have elevated a little. I think you're right. Nebraska's defense is just firing a little better. And so I think Minnesota is going to have a little bit of an up year too. Now, against Iowa, I still I can't see. I don't think I will ever confidently say we're going to lose to Minnesota or Nebraska. I will never say if they both have outstanding years, I'm just going to assume / expect that we are also having a very good year and still can beat them. I don't think there's a world where we lose those games. But I do think they will be competitive. They could be competitive games.
I agree. I think that it's going to be a little risky. But like you mentioned, I was listening to something the other day, and they said when Iowa has a capable offense, the sky's the limit for Iowa. And this year, this is kind of getting into a little bit higher, but I think the sky's the limit. So I can firmly say that I'm not worried about Minnesota or Nebraska either. I'm more worried about the Penn States in the world, Michigans in the world.
We'll talk more about that when we actually get into our Iowa segment. But one more game we have to recap here a little bit. It was on last night. Florida versus Utah. Good old Utah, about to be leaving the Pac-12. Sorry. Utah did win 24-11. So this is one of those things where Utah I think is a deserving team to come out of the Pac-12, go into the Big 12, kind of step up. I don't think I'm insulting anybody by saying going to the Big 12 is a step up from the Pac-12. I think it definitely is one of the more Power 3 type of conferences, and Utah joining it definitely strengthens the conference as a whole.
For sure, I agree. Also, Alex Padilla plays for Utah State, backup quarterback. Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on. Sorry, guys.
That's why I had to pause there, is because I read that and laughed and was kind of like, Avery needs to correct himself.
Anyways, Utah, Cameron Rising didn't play. He got hurt throughout the off season, I guess. He will be back at some point in the regular season, but they started junior Bryson Barnes, and he looks sharp, man. And I was reading a little bit up on Bryson Barnes because I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, why are we watching this? Where's Cam? Like, he's been there for 5 years. I wanted to see Cam Rising play. And he was a walk on at Utah. And so seeing him finally get his shot, I mean, he looked okay. 12 for 18, 159 yards and 1 TD. Like, he didn't look bad. I mean, and Utah, they took on a mighty SEC team in Florida, and they kicked their ass. Like,
and that's with that backup quarterback too. Like, imagine you have Cam Rising in Utah. Utah could be a really good team this season. Are they? They're not ranked at all, are they?
yeah, they're ranked. Let me go into the top 25.
I was gonna say, because if you can go 24-11, like
They're
on an
ranked
SEC
14th.
team like that, 14th. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was gonna say, I'm like, if you're doing this with a backup quarterback against an SEC team, like your 5-year starting quarterback should be able to handle just about any other team that you're gonna play. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win them all, but you should be able to handle it decent. Like, you're not gonna have a quarterback freak out. You know what I mean? Like,
I,
you're gonna
I,
play the game you play.
yeah, no, and like we mentioned it like the other day, like Utah's no slouch. They never have been no slouch. Like we always talk about like the Pac-12 as they're kind of, the redheaded stepchild, but no, they're no slouch. Utah, like I think Utah could be competing for a not just a Pac-12 championship this year, but a Big 12 championship next year and the playoffs. Like I think Utah, especially when the playoffs expand, I think they have an okay shot this year. But if the playoffs expand next year to the 12 teams, like I think Utah's going to be a consistent playoff team every single year. The one thing I have with it is like they always build their defense, and that's why they get away with it. Like the Pac-12, they never build defense. Utah's defense is incredible. Utah built their program like a Big Ten school. And maybe that's why we like Utah, because they built their program like a Big Ten school. But they remind me, every time they remind me of Penn State. Like they play like Penn State or Michigan State. They play tough and gritty defense and have a really good offense that can match with it.
Yeah, that could be because I know I certainly do love Utah. If I had to kind of pick out of the Pac-12 schools, from a might be slightly bandwagonist to say, because I do kind of like to keep eyes on Colorado. Like girlfriend's family out there, whatever. They're all Buffs fans, but Utah, just watching them win a couple Pac-12 championships, especially against freaking
USC.
yeah,
Yeah.
USC. I can't think of his name right now because he's irrelevant to me. Fuck him. But
Caleb Williams.
yeah, it's Caleb fucking douche. But yeah, just seeing them like beat him and all that jazz, like I'm like, yeah, go Utah. Let's do it. But yeah, they're definitely gonna. USC is not going to bring anything to the table this year. They don't stand a chance against Utah. Utah's taking the Pac-12 again. I don't think there's a question about that.
100%. And you know what's funny with this too, man, is fuck Florida. I hate every aspect of Florida. No offense to people that live in Florida. I know you got hit by a hurricane, but whatever. But fuck Florida. Like I bet on the Florida Gators because I was like, okay, like plus 11, like the odds were plus 3.5. Like the odds were not, and Vegas was completely wrong. So I bought it up to plus 11. I'm like, oh, Florida can keep it within 11. I don't think they're going to beat Utah, but they can keep it. How do you lose by 14 points? Like, how do you just, Florida, fucking Florida. Everything about Florida disappoints me. Graham Mertz looked like ass. Like, he played like a shit game. He says, okay, like it says 31 for 44, 333 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. Doesn't look like a bad game, right? It was all like screens. I don't know what their offensive coordinator was doing. I get it, screens, that's fine, but it was No, Florida. No,
I don't know what it is this year in screens, but like the Bears in their first preseason game ran a
Yep.
couple screens. Florida's running a bunch of screens. We have a bunch of screens in our playbook. I like what is this just becoming a popular thing? Is this just starting to be like the new age of football? Like, yo, screens, fucking like
Screens,
hammer them out.
RPOs. Like, I don't like.
I'm not even talking RPOs. Like those have been common, those have been around. Like people do them all the time. But like specifically running screens, like everyone is running different like screens right now, and I don't know how it happened, where it came from, or why it is. But I feel like in the past week or two of watching football, I've just seen a whole bunch of screens happening.
For sure. And I mean, I think that might be just like little nuance of the game. Like I think it's just kind of going to be here for a year or two and then go away again and then come back in a year or two. Kind of like the trips formation. It like makes its way back every few years is like a prominent like formation. Same with Wildcat, you know. I think screens are just going to be part of the games for a couple of years and then move on from there.
Maybe, but and it just seems weird to me. Just they're popping up everywhere. I don't understand it. But getting away from our recap, getting into a little bit of our upcoming games that we have happening tomorrow, Saturday, September 2nd. First game, TCU, who is ranked number 17th right now, will be playing Colorado at home. TCU at home. This is going to be college game day. It'll be Deion Sanders' first head coaching game in the Pac-12 with the Buffs. It's happening at 11 a.m. tomorrow, so I will not be able to watch it because our game is also happening at 11 a.m. It had to get pushed up because it's supposed to be hot tomorrow, so we have an earlier start time, which disappoints me because we'll talk about it a little later. But Iowa also plays at 11, and I thought I was going to be able to watch like the first half of that before our game started, but that will not be the case anymore. So I'm just going to miss it entirely.
That's
But what are your thoughts on Colorado TCU?
Yeah, man. Sonny Dykes is back. Ronan's sideline for TCU. He was a fun story to watch and listen about last year. TCU is that Cinderella team, and can they like replicate this like amazing journey that they had with Max Duggan? I did want to mention Max Duggan did get cut by the Los Angeles Chargers.
Damn.
He got moved to the practice squad, so he's still, you know, he got moved to the practice squad, but he got cut from the 53-man roster. Unfortunately, they went with Easton Stick, which I don't. Oh well. Anyways, but TCU, I don't know. Like I don't know what to make of it. There's so many storylines going into this game. Like you got Dion, can he like do what he did like at Jackson State? Shador, his son's starting quarterback for Colorado. There's no nepotism there. You got TCU and Chandler Morris starting over being the new starting quarterback after he lost his job to Max Duggan. Like there's Sonny Dykes. Can he replicate the insane Cinderella run? Like there's so many things. What's your thoughts?
So this will be interesting to see because we do have two teams. This is almost like the Nebraska Minnesota situation in my head. Like we have two teams here that's like, okay, did Colorado elevate their game to TCU standards, or did TCU depreciate down to like Colorado-esque standards? Because like you are losing Max Duggan, and I don't know how big of an impact Duggan had on making them the team that they were competing in the college football playoffs. Like, obviously, it takes some defense too. It takes the right receivers to do it. It takes a good O line to protect. It takes multiple things, but quarterback is still a very, very big, crucial piece of a whole offense. I mean, we saw how it destroyed Nebraska just throwing 3 picks throughout the game. You don't throw 3 picks, you have a more capable quarterback in those situations, and you come out with the win right there. So they are a very crucial part of the game. So I don't know how much losing Max Duggan is going to affect TCU's, like, are they ranked number 17, or are we really going to see them dive off the cliff because, Max Duggan's not there anymore. And then same thing with Colorado. How are we going to know if, like, okay, this was a super competitive game, Colorado's keeping up with TCU, like Deion's got things trucking right, which I would go back to the same thing, saying this is his first year there. Granted, he did make a bunch of recruiting changes, so that could be the key factor in why he doesn't need like a year or two to get the right guys in there and just recruit, because he already basically flipped the entire roster and has all his guys in already. So that'll be really interesting to see how quickly he can get that team rolling. But I'm curious to see if it'll be right now this year right away, or if it's still going to take a little bit of time, or if he can do it at all. There's nothing to guarantee that he can actually flip it like he's intending to do.
All right. You gave me a lot.
I did.
So, one thing, I'm going to go back to the TCU and Max Duggan and Chandler Morris situation. So Max Duggan was, like you said, how much of an impact did Max Duggan have? Dude, that man was the heart and soul of that team. Like, and when you rip away, I just watched the Florida Gators documentary on Netflix, the Swamp Kings or whatever it's called. But Tim Tebow was that heart and soul of the 2007, 2008 Florida Gators team. And like that's similar to like the lifestyle like that I like pictured Max Duggan. Like Max Duggan, he was like bigger than life itself at TCU. Maybe not on a national stage, but at TCU, he was a god because like everybody knew how much he put in, how much he worked at his skill, at his craft. And like he came out and he showed that every single game. And he bled. He would like fight for extra yards at a quarterback. He'd take a hit. Like, and that was everything for that TCU. And I think that's what kept that team going. And I think that's a lot of the reason why that motivation was there. And they went 12-1 and they went to the national championship. Yeah, they got blown out by Georgia, but who cares? It happens. Chandler Morris, let's see if he can replicate it. But you know how it is. When a successor leaves, it's never the same type situation as it was when that guy was there. And so, like, I'm interested to see. I think TCU will depreciate a little bit. Now, moving on to what you said about Colorado, I think Deion Sanders is a fraud as a coach. I'm sorry, those are harsh words coming from me. I have no coaching experience whatsoever. So I'm just a fan saying I don't like Deion's style. There's a lot of players that he let loose that were good players. Of course, Colorado was a bottom dweller of the Pac-12 for the last couple of years. But still, I think I don't like nepotism. And I've even said it with Brian Ferentz and Kirk Ferentz. I hate it. And you don't bring in your sons and make him the automatic starting quarterback. I don't care if he was a 3-star athlete coming out of high school. He was a 3-star athlete. There's a couple of guys. You remember Josh McCown's? His son was on the Colorado roster, and he transferred. He was a 4-star athlete coming out. And so, like, I get it. You want your son to start for you. Okay, that's like every coach's dream, having their son starting quarterback. It's fine. Like, I get it. But you can't do that at a high level on a big stage. And he is doing it. So the nepotism there is like rough for me. I do think Deion has potential to flip it around really quickly with the roster. Travis Hunter coming in. I just think it's going to take time. It's going to take time still. Like, I do think even if they play it close against TCU, it's going to sound crazy, but I think they get wrecked by Nebraska.
Interesting. Week. Okay, well, so, that's another upcoming game. Well, yeah. Next week. So we'll talk about it next week, upcoming. But yes, very interested to see Nebraska, Colorado. That one I really do want to see how they'll be in the Big 12. But yes, going back to TCU depreciating, obviously they're going to depreciate. Like, there's not too much up ground to go from being in the college football championship. Yes, they're going to take a step back. Do they still make the playoffs? I mean, like, potentially. But even if you don't get out of the first round, like, you still depreciate. Like, in my head, I'm not asking if they take a step back. I'm asking how big is that gap? Like, is it a competing for the Big 12 championship? maybe falling a little short, maybe winning it, who knows? Or is it like, hey, we went 5-5 this season? Like
Yeah,
how big a step back is that step back going to be?
right. I get where you're coming from on that. To me, I think they're still a 9-win team. I think even with Chandler Morris coming in, they're a 9-win team. I don't know if they compete in the Big 12. Like the Big 12, they added a couple of other guys this year. Cincinnati's joining this year. Houston's joining this year. So it's a little bit more competitive this year than it has been in the past. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma are still there. To be honest, I don't think they're the best team in Texas coming into the year. I think
No,
Texas is the best team. And people say that all the time. Texas, blah blah blah. Texas is back. It's similar to Nebraska is back. Texas is back. Well, honestly, I think Texas is back this year.
for sure.
Um,
But going back, um, Colorado with the whole recruiting thing. Like, yes, Dion is flipping a lot of guys, got rid of some good players, but also we don't necessarily know the full stories there, because good player or not, sometimes it's about the coach, like how do you play? What type of system are you running? Like maybe those players weren't a great fit for Dion's system, not even necessarily in football scheme, but in just culture and atmosphere and what he's trying to build in Colorado. Because that's a big part of rebuilding sometimes is you're not necessarily trying to rebuild the players on the team. Like higher levels could be slightly different. You obviously need good players, but a part of a rebuild is like we're trying to get the right guys in that fit this culture that are, good, nice, outstanding guys. Like we don't need assholes. We don't need problems like legally with all of our football players running around causing havoc, even though they're good football players or something. Not to say any of the guys that he cut were causing issues or had bad attitudes or anything like that. But sometimes that is just the way it goes. You want your guys that you want in there compared to even some decent guys who were already there before. You didn't necessarily pick them. Kind of like how we've talked about with the Bears before, like Justin Fields wasn't picked by polls. So there
no,
could be a little bit of a like, yeah, you're a good quarterback and all, but like you're not my pick. So there's a little bit of weirdness there. Now with the nepotism with his son, yeah, definitely I get that. You got to take a little stricter eye to that and be kind of like, okay, is there potentially a better option that you could be having in as opposed to your son, or is that truly like the best that you guys are going to get? But there could also be pros to that too, like it being your son could be a little more coachable, could listen to you better. And a big part of coach and quarterback is just trust. Just outright, like, do you trust each other to do the right thing, to make the right calls, to do the right reads, all that? And I got to say, when you have your child doing it, that trust should automatically be there. It might be, I could see where it'd be a lot harder to trust someone else, even if they might be a little better, if they're not like insanely better, but just like if you're kind of like close comparison there, you're going to trust and understand that your son knows what to do and is going to listen to what you want him to do a little more than not a stranger, but just someone who's unrelated to you.
for sure. I get that. And I get that aspect of things with like Colorado. But like one thing I do like, yeah, they got big playmakers. They flipped the thing on the roll. Like they flipped like the whole roster. He rebuilt it in a year. That's great, no. But can that front seven hold up? Can that offensive line hold up? Can that defensive line? The reports I've been reading is that their offensive line is rough, very rough. They got two guys starting from Jackson State, which like it's okay to make that jump at a skill position from like a D1 AA to a D1. But when you make it from a D1 AA at an offensive line or a defensive line, it takes some time to kind of get like guys are bigger, stronger, and faster. So it's not just the skill players. Like people talk about Shador Sanders, people talk about Shiloh Sanders, and Travis Hunter all the time. But people forget about the offensive line. Games are won up front. And this game, like going against TCU, these guys had a great offensive line last year. Max Duggan had a lot of time. They had a good team against Michigan that had also a great offensive line, and they had returned 4 out of 5 starters. So when you think about this game, there's a reason why TCU is 21.5 point favorites in this game.
For sure. But was the offensive line getting it done last year?
Colorado?
Yeah.
No. I mean, but they also
Exactly.
do return
So even bringing in your own guy, like, sure, like if we're talking specifically the offensive line, he got rid of some decent players. He brought up maybe a couple lower level players, but have FCF's guys never gone like in the NFL draft linemen? They did this year. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing specific. Yeah, they're from a smaller school, and this is where I've flipped a little bit on my perspective of things because I used to be really, really level oriented. I used to be like, oh, that's FBS. Like, you can fuck off if you're below that. Oh, that's FCS. If you're D2, like, just get out of here. Like, D3, like, shut the fuck up. Like, we're talking D2 here. But I've I've changed my tune a little bit on that of like things are a little more interchangeable than you might think. Like you can kind of piece players around more to some degree and whatnot because like we've seen people in the NFL draft get taken from FCS schools and not just skill positions. We've seen linemen get taken in the draft from FCS. We've even seen maybe not necessarily in the draft, but there are D2. Look at the Bears. The Bears right now with Bajent. Bajent went to Shepherd, a Division II school. He's a quarterback in the NFL, and I know we're talking skill now, not line, but I'm just talking in general here. Like that's a D2 guy that's out playing on an NFL team. He's a backup quarterback, but in the preseason when he was playing, he looked really good. So I don't think we can say that Jackson State players don't necessarily deserve to be like going to Colorado and can't hold their own because like there there's more interchange. It's still Division One, even in that regard. Like it is still Division One. Like you're a pretty big body, should be pretty skilled, and maybe they'll be all right. Now I'm not vouching for Colorado's line right now because I have no idea what the line looks like right now. Obviously, we've not seen them play, and just because it is a whole new hodgepodge of people, like he recruited practically the entire team this year. A lot of these guys haven't played together. So that's going to be the biggest factor, especially O-line wise, is the O-line has to understand each other and communicate a ton to be able to protect things because you never know what's coming at you any given play. So there has to be tons of communication, tons of trust between those players, and that's going to take a little bit of time to build. I don't think it has anything to do with where they come from or who they are, whether they got there this year, last year, whenever. I think it just has to do with it's going to take time to build that communication, trust, and like unit style working between the five guys.
I agree. But at the same time, like when it comes down to your question was TCU and Colorado, right? I'm just saying not Colorado as a whole. I'm saying against TCU, I don't think it holds up. I don't think I don't even think Colorado. I think they lose 42-17. I think Colorado gets wrecked by TCU. But we'll see.
We will see. I don't know. I have zero expectations for Colorado because, like I said, I don't like even if Dion has flipped the program, I still stand by my it's been a year. I don't think you can't just do a 360 or a 180 in a year. Like it takes some time. Even if you did replace all the guys right now right away, like I said, they got to become a team. They still have to build. They're still new guys. They still need to build a culture and they still need to trust and work together. So it's definitely going to take time. I don't have any doubts that TCU is going to win. Maybe slight doubt, but TCU more than likely is going to win. But I'm curious to see. Same with that Nebraska Minnesota. I want to see 2-3 games in to see
Yeah.
where they stand total, not just versus each other. Because versus each other, like that's what I'm saying. It's just not going to tell us much. Like TCU blows out Colorado, great. I still don't know what it is. Did TCU take a huge step back and Colorado's just no better, or is TCU still great and Colorado elevated? I'm not questioning how the game's going to go. I'm questioning what that means in the long run of both of their seasons individually.
For sure, I agree. Um, I want to talk about a game that we don't have on our list, but it's an in-state rival. Iowa State versus Northern Iowa on September 2nd.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured, we just wing it a little bit because, we got to talk about state. Hunter Deckers isn't there because of the gambling, and so they're going to be going with Rocco Beck.
Yep. Meanwhile, UNI's quarterback, supposedly according to one of the coaches, he is an NFL caliber quarterback.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on.
That was
Oh, I think I know who I think I know who this quarterback is. Theo Day. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I don't
yeah,
know him
Theo Day.
personally. I don't know him personally, but no, like I've seen he's played really well, like for UNI. Like last year, he was really good. I think he was a true freshman last year.
Was it?
Yeah, let me look it up real quick.
No, yeah, I remember hearing about. I don't know if it was the head coach or if it was just like one of the assistants or the court. I have no idea who, but yes, one of the coaches was very, very like adamant about Theo Day is an NFL quarterback. Like Theo Day will be in the NFL.
So Theo Day, he is a senior. I'm totally off, but like no, Theo Day, yeah, he threw 26 touchdowns and 6 interceptions last year. See, I think Northern Iowa is back in the Missouri Valley Conference. We don't talk about UNI very often because like they're like the youngest brother. We talk about big brother in Iowa, little brother Iowa State, youngest brother UNI.
There's like your like teenage, like you have a high school senior, high school sophomore, and then you have like the 2-year-old at the bottom that just, is like, hey champ.
Hey bud, but no, yeah, no, but UNI does come out and they do beat Iowa State occasionally. They do have that type of skill set. I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
I am very excited about this game. I'll probably watch this game also. This is on September 2nd. They play
Tomorrow.
at 1. So
1. Ooh.
yep,
I'll be able to catch at least the latter half of that then after our game.
for sure. But yeah, no, I don't know how good Iowa State. I know we were talking a lot Big 12 with Colorado and TCU. How good is Iowa State going to be this year? They got hit harder than Iowa did with the gambling scandal. So like, what is Matt Campbell going to be able to do at Iowa State? Like, I mean, he's been a great coach. They've had successful quarterbacks. Hunter Decker was a good quarterback until all this came out. Like, what's going to happen?
And they've lost a few players to the draft too. Like they lost Will McDonald and somebody else, didn't they? That were drafted in the NFL, and so like they are down a couple players, whether it be for moving on, growth of your career, or for suspension through gambling. But yeah, I really have no idea about Iowa State. Honestly, I haven't paid much attention to them. I'll pay a hell of a lot of attention to him next week. Is that going to be Iowa State, Iowa? Normally, Cy-Hawk is week 2, right? So
Yeah.
I'll pay a little more attention to him there. We'll see how this first game goes for him. But getting into that in-state rivalry a little bit, words are hard. Let's get into our segment. Let's talk Hawks. We got Iowa, who is ranked number 25 preseason rankings. That is awesome. Going up against Utah State in their first game. Once again, it'll be tomorrow, September 11th. Wow. September 2nd at 11 o'clock. Once again, not going to be able to watch our games at the exact same time, which is kind of annoying. But Caden McNamara supposedly having some health issues and stuff, but he is expected to play, according to Kirk Ferentz.
I didn't even know he was having health issues. That's but yeah, no. I mean, we kind of talked about this game last week. We kind of talked about it prematurely. I still think Iowa's got a shot. Like I said earlier, like one thing I was listening to is you give Iowa capable offense with a good quarterback and a good tight end. like the sky's the limit for Iowa because they always have a top 25 defense. And I firmly believe this year we have that capable quarterback in Cade, and we have Eric All, tight end. We have Luke Lachey coming back, Nico Regini. Like, I think there's so much potential on this Caleb Johnson. We have so much potential on this offense that we could surprise a lot of teams. Back in 2020, we averaged 30.2 points per game. Yeah, not all offense, but we averaged that. That was back with Nate Stanley at quarterback, not Spencer Petras. But we had that good team. We had that team. So I'm hoping this year we can, replicate.
I think this year will definitely be a good year for us. At least offensively, we'll be very good. Defensively, there's never really any question about the defense. Phil Parker, defensive coordinator, he's got things running right. We've got some good players. Cooper DeJean is still there. He's still going strong. Biggest thing that's going to hurt probably is Noah Shannon. With the gambling allegations, we have also lost him when we've already lost guys like Jack Campbell, Luke Van Ness. So, that's going to hurt up front a little bit, but hopefully things are still firing in all cylinders. Like I said, Iowa's defense, they know how to build a defense. They will be fine. Offensively, I think we're on the up and up. I do think offensively, like you said, we got a lot of firepower. We got some decent receivers, which is weird for me to say. Actually being there, looking around, I'm like, Iowa has receivers? Is this a real thing? Because we don't fucking throw the ball. We're a big run team. We didn't have a quarterback that completed a ton of passes. And I was just kind of like, oh, people want to be receivers at Iowa. Interesting. That wouldn't have been something I would have guessed. But with Cade being there, I think we're definitely going to be, opening things up through the airway a little bit. We're going to have a 2 tight end system going in sometimes. There's no way you don't put Eric All and Luke Lachey in at the same time and let them go to town on a defense. Caleb Johnson's going to be an awesome running back. We've also got a couple other good running backs, I think, that'll be coming down the line and stuff. I think Iowa's offense is going to be sound. I don't know if it'll be great, but I think it'll be sound. It'll get the job done, and the defense can definitely carry them up into a maybe top 10 area. I'm talking too much, but I think they'll be pretty decent this year.
Well, and you're not too far off. I mean, last year, yeah, we had a down year, but we still won 9 games on a down year. That's good on a down year. 2 years ago, we were the number 2 team in the country at one point. I just watched the highlights of because I posted on our TikTok, Penn State versus Iowa when it was 3 versus 4, and then we moved to number 2 team in the country for a 3-week span, and we're freaking out that we think Iowa's going to the playoffs.
Only to get spoiled by Purdue.
Yeah, at the end of the year, that sucked a lot, and then get killed by Michigan in the Big Ten championship.
Yep.
But anyways, that's beside the point. So no, the top 10 isn't far off. I think Iowa, we always live around 15 to 25. We always finish the year 15 to 25, 25, and come into the year 25 or mid 20s. This year, I think we have a better team than we've had in the past 5 years.
Yes, definitely.
I think so. And that's even with losing Seth Benson, Jack Campbell, Lucas Van Ness. That's even losing 3 key players on the defensive side. Because I know these 3 defensive players, guys are going to step up. They're going to fill in. That's the Iowa way. That's how Kirk Ferentz built it. You were around the program. You see the guys working in the weight room. That's how Kirk likes it. Next guy up.
Definitely. And we still do have some of those playmaker, high caliber kind of guys. We still do have Cooper DeJean out there, running around the backfield. If he doesn't have at least 5 interceptions this season, he's doing something wrong. Or people just aren't throwing at him, which could be too. But Cooper DeJean is an absolute beast. We have Jay Higgins. He's an older senior middle linebacker. He's going to be just fine. I think we'll be all right. I think we will be fine. We still have experienced guys that have been playing there on the defense, and like you said, we have some other guys that are going to step up too and fill some roles. Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about Iowa than that. I'm just excited to at least see some highlights or see the recap of the game afterwards.
I'll snap you play by play. I got you.
I unfortunately I will be on the sideline and will not be paying any attention to my phone.
Actually, I have to work during the Iowa game too, so next week's gonna be a odd podcast of us being like, "Oh yeah, Iowa, we played Utah State, and yeah, but yeah,
we'll watch some highlights. We'll talk about it the best we can. But we'll move away from college a little bit. We'll finish up the episode talking with our first regular season NFL game coming up. We've got Chiefs taking on the Lions at Arrowhead. This is going to be Thursday, September 7th at 7:20 p.m. So pretty sure Chiefs are going to win it, but I don't know. I think Lions are building something up there in Detroit, so this could be moderately competitive.
okay. So we talked about college, and I like college. That's fine, but my true passion and my true love is the NFL, and so being able to talk about the Chiefs Lions, this is awesome. Lions, they're frisky, man. They're 8-1. Like they were 8-1 to end the year last year. Of course, you can't take what last year happened, different team, new players. But Dan Campbell's got something going there. And Jared Goff has revived his career in Detroit. They signed David Montgomery. They have Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon St. Brown, but it's also the Kansas City Chiefs. And like that. So I'm talking up the Lions and everything, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. Chiefs are gonna win it, but wouldn't it be something? Like, how would the NFL and all the fans react to the Detroit Lions beating the Chiefs in Week 1? They'd be like shocked.
I'm not necessarily saying the Lions beat anybody, but I'm saying like I don't think we're about to watch a 40-7 game. I think we're about to watch a 24-17 kind of game or something, like moderately competitive.
I don't know. I think it's going to be more than moderately competitive. I think that we're in for a treat. I don't think the NFL would put a snooze fest. If you look back to like Week 1 games, like in the past, like the very first game, they never put a boring game. And so they must know that Detroit's got that team. And I think it all starts up.
They did write the script, so of course they know.
Yeah, they did write the script. So, these two are going to end up in the Super Bowl against each other. Let's be honest. But no, I do think Jared Goff, and the other cool thing about this game is last time Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes played each other, Jared Goff was a Los Angeles Ram. And it was the 54-51 game on like Monday Night Football, the highest scoring game in NFL history. And Jared Goff got the best of Patrick Mahomes in that game. So let's see some fireworks. I don't care about defense. We see enough defense. We're watching the Hawkeyes. We see it on Saturday. Let's watch some fireworks on Thursday night.
I'm excited for it. Football is officially back, not just college, but NFL as well. I'm pumped. I'm ready to watch some games this season, college and NFL. And this is definitely going to be watching type of game. Like I do like the Lions, in division. They feel like our like we're on the same page here, same division, sitting below the Packers, just kind of like pissed off, not doing great. Like this is our year.
Yep, and that's the sucky part because it's like we're both at that like this is our year, and I like you said, I like the Lions. They have Sam Laporta. They have
Jack Campbell.
Like Dan Campbell didn't play at Iowa, but he's just he's like a type of coach you would want. Like he's like the epitome of like a hard nosed, like I want to fight for you type coach. And it's just, dang, man, like I like the Lions. Like I know you mentioned in a couple of podcasts, should we just like rub this a little lighter blue and maybe it'll turn? And they got David Montgomery. I love David Montgomery in Chicago, and now he's their running back. I don't know, but I don't like cheering for my own team. I won't cheer for the Vikings. I won't cheer for Green Bay, but I will cheer for the Lions. They are kind of like that little brother of the league, and I want to see them be successful at the Bears' dispense. I want the Bears to go like 14 and like 2, and then the Lions go like I want the Bears to go like 17 and 0, and then the Lions to go like 15 and 2. That'd be cool. The only 2 losses against Chicago.
That's
I'd be happy with
that's how I've always said it with Iowa State type play. I'm like, hey, my goal in life is to have Iowa win the college football championship, and Iowa State is the runners up. Like that's how it goes. That I want the Cyhawk game to be the college football championship game. Like,
How wild would that be?
that would be crazy.
That would be insane.
The writers would never write that. That's no.
No, yeah, college writers are like Iowa in the national championship. What? No, nobody would believe that. It's kind of like the Lions in the Super Bowl, though. Like, does anybody still believe that, or is this just like all talk? Like, is it all talk? Is it all off-season talk? We'll see.
We'll find out this year. But I think that's all the time we have for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. We will be back here next week, roughly the same time. Yeah, I guess I don't have anything else to say. Avery?
Nothing really, guys. Just go Hawks and wait. Oh, I do. Follow us, like us on YouTube. We got TikTok, Challenge the Call. Follow us, like us. We've been posting a lot. Our TikTok one of our videos hit 47.7K views. So 47,000 people viewed it, over 2,000 likes. So that's kind of
no
cool.
need to brag here.
No, I'm just saying I'm pretty proud of the TikTok is like my little baby of the podcast. So I'm pretty proud of it. But other than that, guys, yeah, bear down.